Good evening. This is the regular joint meeting of the Oakley City Council acting as a successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency, Oakley Public Financing Authority. This meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. Roll call. Councilmember Fuller.
Here.
Councilmember Meadows.
Here.
Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Henderson.
Here.
And I am Mayor Shaw, present. We are going to move on to 1.2, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's going to be Yasmin Mohammed. And while she comes up, I'm going to go ahead and read. Yasmin comes from a family of 7. She is the middle child and enjoys drawing, a social butterfly, very outgoing, and loves interacting with others. She has been attending Almond Grove since 2nd grade. Almond Grove is filled with wonderful teachers and staff who consistently create and maintain a positive environment.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, we're going to move into public comments. Public comments will be heard for items not on the agenda. I do have public speaker cards submitted. To submit a public speaker card, please complete a blue speaker card located in the lobby and submit it to the city clerk. The time limit to speak is 3 minutes. The time limit is monitored by the timer located in front of the mayor's seat. When 1 minute remains on the timer, it will beep once as a reminder to complete your comments before your time expires. Please refrain from any applause, cheering, booing, or other outbursts so that everyone may have an opportunity to be heard. Note that due to provisions of state law, the council may not engage in dialogue regarding comments, but staff may be directed to respond to persons making public comments. All right, I have Margie Carroll.
Hello, my name is Margie Carroll. I'm 70 years old, and I'm from Antioch. I'm here to let you guys know about a threat to your community. Her name is Nicole Cedeno and her family. And I know some of you know about her. But what you don't know about her is Nicole and her husband Tom are under government watch. Nicole will not stop harassing people. She has been harassing people for years. She uses other people's profiles to harass people, make false claims on people. I can guarantee right now she is under attack for another family. Nicole, here's my photos. Nicole has harassed me, assaulted me, tried to shoot me. I'm sorry. Which resulted in me having to go for an MRI because they thought I had a stroke because I started stuttering, all under the protection of the Antioch Police Department. Nothing was made of it. Then she threw a can of vegetables through my bedroom window, resulting in me being cut. Again, police did nothing. With the shooting, before that, she had damaged my car. She had thrown rocks and damaged my car. Okay, I'm sorry. Like I said, she's protected by the APD and the Back the Blue city officials. I have told APD, city officials, members of the Back the Blue, and they're invested by the DOJ. I've been investigated by the DOJ department. I am cleared. They are being investigated by the DOJ. I have 14 police calls, which they only recorded 6 police calls. I have over 60 videos of her, what she's done to me. And the DOJ has all of that. And then the other picture is, this is the one with the window, with the can. And that's when she's trying to shoot me. And this is when, in front of the police, she threatened me. And Police did nothing. This one is where Nicole and her daughter Selena went after this family neighbor with bats, broke down their door with a 4-year-old there. Police made no reports, and they protected her. And so what I'm trying to let you guys know is that she is a threat to your community. She is not going to stop. She hasn't stopped. This has been going on for years. And then one more thing is my time up? Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
La Palma?
Yes, La Pamela. Hello, I'm a resident of Oakley, and I have been since '09. I'm in District 2, I just found out today. But I'm the neighbor now of Nicole Sandino and Selena Sandino, and I've dealt with illegal fireworks. I have proof of everything. Now they have cowbells going on. They have harassed my entire family for the last 2 years. They moved from Antioch, came to Oakley, and they've done the same thing. And I need accountability and to feel peaceful in my neighborhood that I've been in since '09. And the Oakley police have been the Oakley police have been wonderful, but I need her to be held accountable. Like I said, fireworks. I was able to get video footage of her having a car that came to her house, and it was presented to the Oakley police officers. Did donuts in our residential area, illegal fireworks, and they did. The officers were very diligent on getting the impound handled, and like I said, Oakley police officers have been wonderful helping us, but I need her to be held accountable because it hasn't stopped, not nonstop. It started with my children. I've had bones and bananas thrown in my yard. Me and my kids call monkeys and animals. It's very unacceptable. So and I tried to get restraining orders, but the commissioner left it as if they did anything else, that they would be held accountable, because they pulled out tasers as well. And I have pictures of the tasers. I have pictures of my yard was just vandalized recently, February, March of this year. Every day there's something. So something has to be, held accountable. I would like to get a group or someone to help me get a class action lawsuit against her, because it's several victims. She has several restraining orders in Contra Costa County. It's like, how is she continue to be able to be not held accountable and protected? And I don't feel safe living next door to these people. So, and I really feel like some accountability has to be granted at some point. Because like I said, I've been here, my 2 children were raised here in Oakley, and we've been at peace until she moved in. And there's a history of this. And the same thing that I told the commissioner when I was trying to get the restraining orders granted, and she has done. They always blocking my garageway. Every day there's something, knocking over my garbage cans. Every day there's something, and I shouldn't have to, I'm a homeowner, I shouldn't have to be subject to this. No one should. And now there's cowbells going on all hours of the night. They're not wind chimes, they're cowbells going on. So yeah, it's unacceptable, because no one here would want to have to deal with that, I'm sure. So I just want some accountability, and I want to feel safe like I did before they moved in to my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Bud Chaddock?
Good evening, council members, mayor, vice mayor. I got a few things, kind of updates of things I've been involved with. I was at the DWR meeting in Sacramento, along with Roger Mammon. And you better watch out for your water. That's all I got to say. The funny thing is, it's funny they claim it's going to be a California boom for the economy and this, that, but there was 2 Nevada people there wanting the contracts. So to me, that doesn't sound like California workers on that anyway. So it's very bad. San Diego also wants like 13 to 19% more of the water from the Delta. So that's something that to be very, very concerned about. You're having this growth. You're going to need the water if you're going to have this growth, that or poorer water quality. So it's most of the people that were there had the consensus it'd be like it was supposed to be 20 billion. They figure it's going to go way over 40. So that's the other thing. So just, I would have loved to have seen a city show up there. No cities around here show up. To me, it's a big deal. It needs to be fought hard. Or the rates are gonna go up. LA's rates are gonna go up already. They don't realize it yet. So anyways, on the other thing, I've been involved with some cleanups like you have and whatnot. There has been an extreme amount of trash, even at Creekside. The other day, I could have filled 15 bags of just paper goods, plastic, just dumped all over. And I've been working with UC Davis and monitoring the creek on various things. Also seen a lot of interesting animals. So it's seen a long-tailed weasel, which is very rare. Saw that on the creek. So helped a kid take a hook out of a turtle. So, there were some kids involved, and we saw a lot of snakes on the path yesterday. So anyways, that's one thing, more cleanup. Another thing is I've been informed about some grants that might be upwards of $100,000 that could be used for restoration, habitat for animals, fish, whatnot. I've been talking to several people, including a senator's liaison, who was also on a meeting tonight. She did show up, so I have that to think about. I think Brentwood and Oakley would be rather foolish not to go after the money. That's me for, just thinking as far as habitat restoration. Also some signage about the wildlife would be a little better, especially there to get kids excited about things and whatnot. I showed probably 20 kids the snakes, explained what they were doing. They were out there mating actually. So they're breeding right there on the pathway. So anyways, that's a short report.
Thank you. Andres Garcia.
Thank you for allowing me to speak, Mayor Shaw and City Council. My name is Andres Garcia. I'm from District 2. When I read our city's mission statement, I felt emboldened this morning to come here with the topic of safety in mind. I was accosted by shame today, shame in our community. At around 7:13 a.m., I returned home from a morning workout, and I experienced what I could only call drivers blatantly disrespecting school zone signage. And this happened near the O'Hara Park Middle School. While there was not groups of children crossing over, there was a single child trying to get to school safely. And that could have easily been my sister, trying to get to school early. There is a growing apathy in drivers near our schools that has been going on for quite a while. I feel that this will only get worse as the commercial area located a block away from the O'Hara School finalizes construction, invites more commerce, and of course, vehicle traffic. I don't just come to bring awareness, but to suggest that our current solution, the cross guards, is just not enough to combat the growing disrespect. I believe it's time for us to take further steps, like installing speed cameras on the O'Hara school zone that activate during typical school hours. I urge you to make it clear and to remind us all that we are a community that values and protects its children. I urge you to take action and to protect my sister. I urge this before we become a community that grieves. We are a community that cares, and I believe it's time to act. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other comments, I will move on to item 3, which is council comments. And please remember that you also have 3 minutes to speak, which is regulated by the timer. Any council members have any comments that they'd like to make? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. I have not received any comments on the consent calendar. Are there any items council would like to pull?
4.1.
I'll move remainder.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to remove the consent calendar minus 4.1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. 4.1, Councilmember Fuller.
Yeah, same objection I've had in the past. Ms. Snodgrass does a wonderful job with the direction she receives, but we are not having, because of the direction she receives from the council, we're not having accurate, fully embellished minutes, so I will vote no.
I move approval 4.1. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. All right. Let's see. We are going to move into item 5.1, which is a public hearing to consider confirming the diagrams and assessments and ordering the levy and collection of the annual assessments for fiscal year 2025-26 for the City of Oakley Street Lighting and Landscaping Assessment District Number 1. Kevin Rohani.
Good evening, Mayor Shaw, Vice Mayor Henderson, members of the council. This is a time of the year similar for the past 25 years that we bring you the approval of the assessment for the lighting and landscape in City of Oakley. This process, as I said, back in July 2000, the City Council, after the incorporation of the city, basically established the city's own lighting and landscape assessment district, and prior to that, before incorporation, that was done by the County of Contra Costa. And this process is somewhat similar. Many cities use it to provide funding to maintain their landscape and lighting throughout their community. So we're not different on that sense. Each year, we prepare an engineering report that outlines all of the costs associated with maintaining the city's parks, landscaping, and street lighting to the best condition. At the last meeting, at the May meeting, the council was presented a report and set this evening as the public hearing for this subject matter. In Oakley, our landscaping and lighting is divided into 3 zones. Zone 1 is basically the community parks. These are like Laura Ballfield Park and Freedom Basin Park. Zone 2 is the street lighting to provide funding to pay for basic electricity for maintaining all of our street lights. And Zone 3 is the neighborhood parks. These are more smaller within the subdivision, such as the California Sunrise subdivision that's off of West Cypress Road or Magnolia Park subdivision. For fiscal year 25-26, no assessment rates will be increased other than those that are adjusted as a part of the consumer price index, which we do annually to just keep up with the inflation. And we do this process concurrent with the city's overall budget, which Mr. Haida will present to you after my presentation. So we make sure both budgets are in tune with each other and in concert, basically. At the close of this evening's public hearing, the mayor should request from city clerk if any written protest has been received regarding city's lighting and landscape assessment district. If, based on city clerk's reporting, we have received more than 50% of the landowners in the community protesting to these assessments, the council must abandon the process to levy the fiscal year 25-26 assessment. If, however, we have not received written protests up to 50% of the property owners, the council may proceed with levying of the assessment. At the conclusion of the public hearing, staff recommends the council adopt a resolution attached in your report, ordering the levy and collection of the annual lighting and landscape assessments for fiscal year 25-26. This concludes my report. Be happy to answer any questions, and then you can ask city clerk about that part.
Any questions for staff? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, Mr. Rohani, again, job well done. Reading the report and going through it, I thought it was, from the way the parameters were set out, it answered many questions, but I did have one that I don't remember, one question. I don't remember having this in the past on a dais, something like this. It has not.
Yes, Councilmember Fuller, this report has been presented by my predecessor ever since city was incorporated in 1999 and 2000. So like I said, it's been going on for the last 25 years, the last 10 years that I've been here, same time, same channel, basically. We've made this presentation, again, last 5 years that you've been at the dais. This has been our report. It's the same process. Again, I said we work concurrently with the city's budget process since these two go hand in hand. But
Okay, well, it probably has to do with the manner that you got Francisco engineers. At any rate, I don't want to get off on that. A couple of questions. Number one, we talk about maximum, we talk about EDUs, we talk about what we're going to do in 2.5 and 2.6. But is there any way out of that report or otherwise we can discern what the assessment is now and what each EDU is paying at this time versus what will be paid next year on that assessment? I went through it, and like I said, it's very well broken down into 2.5, 2.6 on EDUs and $1.3 million on Zone 1, and we could go on from there and all the other ones. But I didn't find anything that shows what the assessment per EDU is now and what it would be next year in comparison. And is there any way of ascertaining that? Or
certainly, Councilmember Fuller, the engineering report, again, that was presented to the council at the previous meeting, outlines for each of the zones, other than Zone 1, Zone 3, which is all of the localized neighborhoods. There are over 26 zones. Each of them, there are specific, if you look at on the report, each one has their own specific assessment value, how much is being assessed, let's say, for the upcoming fiscal year, 25-26. And basically, this has been, it's very consistent, very clear as far as what the assessments are. Because this has spanned over many, many years, again, since 25 years ago, these assessments are not, we don't have the luxury of just raising the assessment. So what they're adjusted is based on the Bay Area Consumer Price Index. Basically, it ranges from 2%, 3%, 4% if the inflation is high. So we track these assessments, the increases based on the Consumer Price Index. So they're not arbitrarily raised.
On pages 18 and 39, I noticed Summer Lake has a $1,400 assessment approximately, and a 25-26 assessment of approximately $337. On 39, it's the same, similar one. There's a few $1,000s on the maximum assessment, and then I think it's reduced to $1,400. All the other assessments are at the max. Why is there a differentiation between those and Summer Lake, who have a less than maximum assessment?
Yes. For fiscal year 25-26, there are 3 zones. Zone 1B, which is a Summer Lake Community Park, the one that you mentioned. Last year, the assessment was $1,419. This year, for 25-26, we're reducing this assessment to about $377. Zone 3-24, this is the Reserve Stone Creek. Last year was $1,015 assessment. This year we're recommending $524. And for Summer Lake South, Zone 3-26, assessment was over 2,400. We are recommending that to be reduced to 1,060. And the rationale for that is versus some that had max rate and nothing changed to them, we have to look at the operating expenses for all of these zones to keep them functional. We have to pay for assortment of costs for landscape, irrigation, and all the capital replacement that we do on these. So these three specific, we've seen that the revenue, kind of the reserve revenue, is enough that we don't have to continue to collect that max rate. So that's why we have reduced these. We don't anticipate to be raising these to the max rate for the foreseeable future. And one of the rationales also for collecting max rate is that when we, as a part of the collective budget, our budget, you're going to have the hearing on a budget in a few minutes, after the budget is approved by the council and becomes effective on July 1st. It will take about 6 months to have all of this assessment put on the county, and eventually at that time, county will pay the city back for the expenses. That's why we carry almost a 50% reserve to keep our cash flow, keep our expenses as we pay for various maintenance and support services we need. So that's why some, as we look at each of these zones, their max rate is very, Summer Lake, for instance, is one of the highest. The larger subdivision, the rates are higher because you have to carry a lot of infrastructure to maintain, versus a very small subdivision or a corner of the town may have a tiny annual assessment, but they don't have like 3 parks and miles of landscaping. So each of them, there's a rhyme or reason why some assessments are higher, some are lower. And again, our collective goal is, again, we want to make sure the entire city look the best condition as it is. These parks are really one of our major assets, what makes Oakley special. There's a method to it as we work through these reports to make sure we have sufficient funding to cover us through the year.
Okay, well, one last, under Appendix C, I did not see a page number, but in the allocation of Zone 1 resources collected, I was going through, I think it's the second or third page in Appendix C. It shows $30,000 of all the money collected in Zone 1, park maintenance. $30,000 of that will go to Creekside Park. Is that correct?
Yes. Zone 1 covers multiple parks, and we use it certainly. Creekside Park is one of our larger parks, so we spend a fair amount of resources to make sure the park is kept up in excellent condition, as shown on the investment we've done on that park over the recent years.
Okay, well, I'll have more comments under the discussion. Thank you. Very professional.
Thank you.
Presentation.
Councilmember Williams?
Okay, so I am looking at table number 1 that talks about the street lighting and landscaping assessment district number 1. It's page 16 if anybody is looking. So it looks like for basically all of these zones, we kind of float at money. It doesn't seem like any of them have enough in assessments to cover the expenditures. Like in Zone 1 particularly, if we did not get it from the gas tax, that one would have been, our expenses would have been more than what our assessments brought in, and that seems to be across the board. So basically, we are not, none of these budgets are really extravagant, it seems like, because it seems like we're just covering costs in a lot of these and supplementing a lot, right? I mean, it looks like our expenditures were $7 million, whereas everything that we brought in was $6 million.
Correct. the short answer, yes, none of them are, again, these budgets are a living document. You know, we work with them, let's say they get approved, July 1st of each year, the budget gets adopted, we continue to work. Sometime during the course of the year, things happen that we had not anticipated, some big ticket items. That's why we have the reserves. And back to your point on the float, yeah, we have to basically float this budget for about 6 months until city receives the funds from the county to pay for the bills. And finally, regarding the gas tax, I just want to make sure the lighting and landscaping are not, I think maybe I heard it wrong, they're not supplementing the gas tax. Because, yes, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then one other question. Do you have any idea, so, you know, many of these are at their maximum, and I understand we adjust for cost of living and all that, but at what point did these reach their maximum? Like, have these been at their maximum for a long time, and the only increase that's happening is as we do the CPI adjustments?
Yes, most of them, and again, the maximum is not a huge amount. I just want to make sure for the public and for the council, when we call it the maximum rate, is not that these rates, by law, we cannot just, again, pick a number. I want to double up the assessments. These rates are all regulated by the consumer price index because how these lighting and landscape zones was set up back in the day over a span of 25 years as subdivisions was built, you know, zones got added to it. So these are basically done that way. As you heard when we had the budget retreat in the recent past, one of our tasks this year, this coming fiscal year, really to do a deep dive in all of these zones in terms of the cash flow, especially we have some zones that, you know, the cost of services is not getting cheaper. The infrastructure is getting older. They need, so it's just they're going in opposite direction. So we're going to be presenting a report sometime early next year as a part of the fiscal year 26-27 budget that really outlines I call it the health of our LADs, lighting and landscape. And then we'll have a discussion with the council. Okay, these are the zones that we're having a hard time keep the cash flow. Again, we want all of these zones to look beautiful, all the landscaping, parks. Again, that's our pride and joy. And how do we go about do that? Do we, again, conversation was at the retreat. Again, once we get all the facts and figures, we bring it to you. Do we reduce the service? Do we supplement it with other source of funding? Do we go to the folks in those specific zones and say, well, what you're paying is not enough to cover the expenses. Are you willing to pay more? Assortment of items will be brought up for your consideration, I would say, early next year.
But no matter what that says, we have to make a decision up here. It's not like we can just, oh, well, okay, this zone needs to have their fees tripled, right? We're still held to something. We would have to either go to the voters or reduce service or have whatever conversations.
Correct.
But it's not like we can have unchecked power to just indiscriminately raise those rates.
No. Again, even raising the rate theoretically is not something in the council that you decide, okay, let's go raise the rate on zone 3-X. It goes to the vote of the people within that zones. And again, over these past years, we're always trying to service this landscaping across from the city. Just, 25 years ago when city was incorporated, we hardly have any major parks. We have almost 40 parks, and mind you, right now as we speak, the largest park in Oakley is under construction, the Del Porto Ranch Park and Summer Lake North. That park dwarfs any other parks we have here, even what we call our bigger parks, the Magnolias and Emerson and Delaney's. So these parks is going to take tremendous amount of resources to upkeep because We don't want to go through this whole process and end up with a product that the residents don't like, nobody likes. It would be a shame. So we're working through always staying ahead of these maintenance requests and keep up our infrastructure.
Okay, quick question. So we have a couple that are going to be not at their max, the two in Summer Lake and the one in District 5.
Three zones for the fiscal year 25-26 are not going to be max, as I mentioned. This is Zone 1B, Summer Lake Community Park, Zone 324, the reserves Stone Creek, and Zone 326, Summer Lake South.
Okay, so
The
let's
rates
say,
are reduced.
let's say we left them at we put them at the max.
Yeah.
That money would be over what we need to maintain the level of service that we see based on this report.
Yeah.
So that money then, could it be used anywhere else, or would it be sitting in that specific district's
No,
bank?
these are going to be used for that specific district. We couldn't take, let's say, Summer Lake's zone funding and come fix a park in downtown.
Which wouldn't be fair either. I just wanted to make it
Oh, yeah.
clear
No,
that.
absolutely. Each of these zones,
Mhm.
you know, the residents pay for essentially their neighborhood. So it is allocated for those.
Right, okay. Then I think that's all the questions, if there are no others. I will go ahead and open the public hearing. And are there any property owners that would like to turn in a written protest regarding the levy of street lighting and landscape assessment, District Number 1 assessment for fiscal year 25-26, or have we received any?
There were no written protests submitted. Therefore, I declare there is no majority protest and proceedings may continue.
All right, and no comments from the public, so I will then close the public hearing. And is there a majority protest regarding the levy of street lighting and landscaping assessment, District Number 1 assessment for fiscal year 25-26? I was supposed to ask that twice? It's here twice. Oh, you jumped ahead of me and said it. All right, I'm just making sure. I'm just reading. Okay, so then I will bring it back to the council for deliberation. Any council members? Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, I thank you for the professionalism that you showed or demonstrated, putting it together. I think it's a great report. It shows it. I also take the responsibility of increasing anyone's assessment, taxes, dues, service fees. I'm still getting over Diablo water with my $3.78 water usage and $23 service bill. But that's neither here nor there. That's not on my line. But back to it, I just cannot in good conscience say, well, trust us. We're going to do this. I was back in the day when grandmas were being forced out of their homes because the property taxes were skyrocketing. You went to the city council, well, we really need that money. And because of hyperinflation, the values were rising rapidly, and they were assessed, and they were literally being forced out of their homes. So they passed in 1976, Proposition 13, which somewhat got things back in a sense that people weren't losing their homes. So I'm very sensitive to just saying, oh, we're going to take money, until I can tell them, this is the amount of money that you paid last year. This is the amount of money that you're going to pay this year. And I'm going to approve it or not approve it. I also think the system is very complicated. I understand how it came about. It does favor the developer for lighting and landscaping. I understand, because 50% if someone owns 50% of the land or more, they vote the way it's going to be, and so the parcels have been made very small, so developers basically own all the land in there and vote how it's going to be put across. But when we go back to cost of living increase, I am looking at Creekside. I'll be talking about Creekside again later, but it showed $30,000 for 25 and $30,000 for 25, 26. And that's not a CPI. That's just a across-the-board increment and movement, 30,000 before and 30,000 next year. And so I didn't go through the rest of them. I don't want to go through the rest of them. But the idea is with CPI, and it's not, the system is made up, it looks like smoke and mirrors, not intentionally done. But we have 2 or 3 zones, and then people are divided up, and then we might have enough, and then we might not have enough. I know Mr. McMurray is working on it, staff is working on it to come up with a easier concept to understand. But until that time, I cannot endorse or approving this assessment.
All right, I wanted to clear up an online comment that was made today that the only districts that were, the only area that was going down was Summer Lake, that is in District 4, and it is mine. There are no political rewards or favors. I had nothing to do with this report. It was done all without me. So these are my moments up here to clarify some things that were said. I'm glad you mentioned that there was a third one that was also not at its max, which is in District 5, and I actually believe a benefit to a council member sitting up here today. Not that that matters, but if I'm going to be accused of political rewards, I want to make sure to note that there are more than just the ones in District 4. So I will, if no other comments, entertain a motion.
I move approval of item 5.1.
I have a second.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, passes 4-1. We are going to move on to our regular calendar, and starting with 6.1, which is waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance repealing and reenacting Chapter 2.5 of the Oakley Municipal Code concerning emergency organizations and functions. Danielle Navarro, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening, Mayor Shaw and Vice Mayor Henderson and council members. In 2023, the city contracted with Aegis Emergency Management Services to conduct an emergency management program assessment for the city. The council received that report and a presentation of the assessment in March of that year, 2023. At the meeting, Mr. McMurray reported that the emergency management program would shift from the police department to the city manager's office once the new assistant city manager was hired, which was me. An additional, a little awkward there. And additional items would be brought back to the council to help implement the new emergency operations plan. So tonight you have an item before you as one of those subsequent items mentioned by Mr. McMurray. Staff is proposing amendments to the Oakley Municipal Code Chapter 2.5 Emergency Organization and Functions to implement the assessment recommendations, to reflect position changes as part of the city's reorganization, and to increase the purchasing authority in exigent circumstances in light of the current and rising costs of goods and services. The amendments are consistent with our strategic plan objectives related to emergency operations. And so staff recommends the City Council waive the first reading and introduce the ordinance repealing and reenacting Chapter 2.5 of the Oakley Municipal Code. And this concludes my report, and I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff by council? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes. Yes, on page 3, the second section B, or B period, not B colon, but B period. You have in there, the office will be assumed by the following individuals in order of succession: Assistant Director, Chief of Police, Public Works, Director, City Engineer, and then it says, or any other employee as designated by the City Council. I believe our Vice Mayor Henderson can expound on emergency situations. Probably been to in few, and I've been in a couple. One where the city of LA south of Mulholland disappeared for a while. But I'm concerned because of that. I'm concerned or other city employee, and we saw last week, and I'll be talking about on page 4. But last meeting, it was agency. What is not an agency is public. And when something hits the fan, and when people are starting to fall and buildings are being burned, and we are in an emergency, I don't like the idea, well, the council can point somebody else because or the word or. I would prefer to put it in then, with the word then. So it reads, the office will be assumed by the following individuals in order of succession: Assistant Director, Chief of Police, Public Works, Director, City Engineer, then other city employee as designated by the City Council. So in other words, if any of those are not available, or for one reason or another, then the council can appoint another employee, and it's a clear item of succession. In other words, we'll be going to the chief of police, and the chief of police will be monitoring his emergency situation or her emergency situation and delegating, and that will be the chief of police's obligation and responsibility, and I'm sure it will do a good job in terms of the community, but there will be no debate on who's in charge or where it goes or how it's going to fit. It's just very clear, and I think we need that in that language. So I would like to have it, the office will be assumed by the following individuals in order of succession: Assistant Director, Chief of Police, Public Works, Director, City Engineer, then other city employee as designated by the City Council. If you go up to section 4, page 4 on the standby member, when we come across of what the qualifications are chosen by, I'm looking for the right paragraph on the selection, but it has the word agency in it on page 4. Looking for standby members. Following the I'm not finding it again. I did read it.
It's in A right there.
What?
Agency?
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. There it is. Yes, the one that got us last week. Thank you very much. Knew it was there. Standby members must have prior experience having served on an agency board. And I don't know how to say it, but I looked up Weber's dictionary, Merriam-Webber's dictionary, and it says an agency is an establishment doing business for another, period. It's an establishment doing business for another, period, which is what I take as agencies. There is the Red Cross, if you sit on the board, is an agency. If you are on the park board, that is an agency. If you are a member of Sutter Health in one of their executive positions, that is an agency. But the way we were interpreted last meeting was that, well, the person from the Red Cross, the person from Sutter, they're private agencies, and this can only be public. I think that's incorrect, and I think we need to put down here that the standby members must have prior experience served on a governing board. If you want to put public governing board, that would be there, but on a governing board. And that can be as simple as, I don't know, if they wanted to bring up a member of the Kiwanis, say David Wall wanted to sit up here. I don't know if he has any prior experience sitting on a board, but if he was sitting on the board of directors of Rotary, I think that would count. That's coming across for what we need. So that would be the other one, that on a governing board, and we just leave it at that. Not public or private or anything else, just they can sit in a group and they have experience in that. So those are the two changes that I would like to see on the letter B, then other, and then on the emergency plan for agency on a governing board. So,
One item I thought with B, where it said the office will be assumed by the following individuals, the part where it said in order of succession, and then it's listed, I thought that covered the than that you were requesting. That's just my opinion. And if you want to talk about the council standby members, I was going to mention that as well. I would like to add it to be a elected public agency or public agency. So there is no more confusion like we had at the last meeting. But I read the order of succession, meaning that the council would be last out of all of those on the list. So, but that's just me. Councilmember Williams?
So I believe the language on standby city council members comes directly from our ordinance. So I think a change to that wording would require a change to an ordinance, which is a little bit different than just changing it on here. So I think that's a different subject. I'll let our attorney weigh in if there's something different, but.
Danielle, do you want to answer that?
So this is the ordinance where that section is. But I would have to defer to the assistant city attorney on whether or not changes can be made to the first reading or whether we need to bring back the first reading of the ordinance.
We'd likely need to bring back the first reading of the ordinance with substantive changes.
so what are we talking? I need a translation.
That we would have to bring back the ordinance if we're going to make substantive changes to something that's coming from existing wording from our code.
I
or
have
an
no
existing ordinance.
I have no problem with bringing it back next meeting and with the changes and go through. I disagree with or is not then, or is a choice, or is a choice between one or the other. You know, that's what we're saying. The way the order of succession I'm reading it is here's the order of succession. And then if you don't see anybody or the city council on it, even though there's a comma, it doesn't specify then. It's interesting, Mayor Shaw, that you bring up an elected public official. That means the members of the planning commission cannot sit on as a standby member. I think that would be a little harsh because they are not elected, they're appointed. So I want to move away from that and just say a governing board.
You're right, I stand corrected. They do have training, they do receive Brown Act training. I was just trying to figure out a way that we didn't have the issues that we had last meeting, so maybe just public agency board would then clarify that, and I would be okay with that. I do think our planning commissioners and those that receive the same types of trainings that we do, especially because it would be in an emergency situation, it's important to have, I serve on a lot of boards, and if I wasn't up here on the council or have never been with the planning commission, I don't think that because I am on the board of Rotary and I'm on the board of Kiwanis and the STS Academy and all these other places that I sit on, I don't think that makes me as qualified as the training that I've received as a planning commissioner as well as a city council member to make those really hard decisions and probably some of the worst times that we would have to be making them. So I do strongly suggest, and I will leave it to the rest of the council, that if we are going to make a change and not move forward with this as written, then if that's going to have to make it come back, then I would like to add public agency to that.
Well, when you do that, I believe we need public too. And don't forget, once you do that, if somebody is running a business here in Oakley, but it's a private business, say Lucky Store down there, and they're part of the board of directors of Lucky Stores, you were saying, well, really, we can't have you up here because you're not a public agency. I think that's too restrictive. I think what we're trying to establish is the person has had experience in the concept of a group coming to a decision. And I think we have to be careful with that. That's why I say a governing agency of one type, and actually that's what an agency is. If you start saying public, then you start anybody in the private sector that you may want to appoint, you're not going to be able to appoint them. And I don't know if that's the best solution either.
Well, I think that if we are doing this as a standby under an emergency situation, then yes, they need to have the clear understanding and training and Brown Act training and all of the other things, because you can serve on a board a Safeway, but you may not know how to run a public meeting. So I believe if it's a public meeting that they are going to be sitting in for the public official, then it should mean that they served on a public agency board or commission.
Yeah, we're not saying they can't run for office. We're just saying that they can't be appointed when they're needed, which is an emergency situation. And I believe, according to our city attorney last meeting, he said that he interpreted it to be public agency. So I think we just need to put in that additional language so it's clearer for people who maybe are confused when they're trying to appoint their standby member.
Yeah, and I want to make it clear, and I'm so sorry to cut you off, but that does not mean somebody serving on a Safeway board isn't qualified to run for city council, and then when they're up here, they get that training. Anybody sitting in this room or listening in the audience, or anybody, of age can run for these seats, can apply to be on the planning commission. With that, then you get this training. This is such a different situation because we're asking them to step in during an emergency situation, and so that experience is necessary, in my opinion.
I guess what I'm looking for is, I know that during an emergency, I'm sure we'll have city attorney input in one form or another. We have a director coming with experience. I'm looking for somebody that knows how to work on the dais and can make a rational decision for the good of the city. As far as any procedures, the Brown Act or any others, I'm sure that the city attorney or the city manager, or the director or the assistant director or whoever's sitting here will be able to correct them if they were going down the other path. Otherwise, but if they are capable of understanding what the city needs and what's going on in an emergency, I have no qualms on it. Say the member of the Red Cross who deals with emergency all the time. But under what you're saying is they can't be here because they're not a public agency.
And we can agree to disagree. All right, do we have any public comments on this item? I don't know if I asked that, it's been a bit. And if not, then I will bring it back to the council for deliberation or a motion.
Well, I'll move, as I've suggested on page 3 and page 4, that it be brought back at the next meeting with the addition of them for or, and that a public agency be added to the words agency.
I have a first, do I have a second?
Just for clarity, it's to bring it back, right? It's not a motion to waive it.
No, it's not a motion. I don't know quite why we're moving it, but it's a motion to bring it back again. I think if the city attorney can help me with it, I think we can just say, would you mind taking that back? And then we'll bring it back next week without any further.
Certainly, if there's a consensus, we have to go through the motions. If you have a majority that wants it as written, we still need to entertain that possibility. Maybe there isn't that possibility this evening, but yes.
Okay, I'll second it because I want the addition of public agency.
So just clarify, the motion is to bring it back with then in the first
And public
and
agency.
adding public
In the second.
in the second. So the second,
That's pages 3 and 4.
right, so
Right.
so it'll say served on a public agency, commission, or council. All right? I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Henderson, your button was up too late.
I'll vote to move it to the next meeting.
All right, so the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We will go on to 6.2, which is waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance amending Chapter 6 of the Oakley Municipal Code concerning purchasing and contracting and Chapter 2.2114 powers of duties. Jerry Tejeda, Administrative Services Director. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council. Tonight before you, we have an amendment to the ordinance. This came about first off with our new software. So the new software, our current ordinance says that anything over $10,000 will have to provide a purchase order. And I think the purpose of that was so that the funds would be encumbered in our accounting software and they didn't get spent on anything else. With the addition of our new software with Tyler ERP, we're actually able to encumber contracts as well as purchase orders. So by adding the word contracts to Chapter 6 as well as purchase orders, it allows us to do one or the other and not have to do both. So what used to happen in the old software, we would do a contract, we would get all the signatures on it, we would get all the proper approvals, and then we would bring it back to accounts payable and say, okay, now we need to do all of that again and do a purchase order in order to encumber the amounts. So this just adds it so that it doesn't necessarily have to be a purchase order. We can use contracts as well to encumber those amounts. And then secondly, it's to increase the city manager's signing authority from $50,000 to $100,000 as we find ourselves where we are now with prices of things. $50,000 doesn't do very much for us. So for efficiency purposes, we are asking that we increase that amount from $50,000 to $100,000. I would like to clarify that those amounts still have to be part of the budget. They're still brought to council to be approved for funding. The city manager would just be allowed to sign the contract if it needed funding, no matter the amount, whether it was $50,000, $100,000, or $10,000. Those would come back to council still to authorize funding. So this is just more to keep us from having to do all of the staff reports to bring it. I think the example I used in the staff report is vehicles. You know, we used to be able to purchase vehicles under $50,000, and we can't do that with a patrol vehicle anymore. And so that would require us every time we went to go purchase a patrol vehicle to stop, bring it to council, get the authority for signatures before we move forward. So with that, I'm open for any questions. Questions from the council? Councilmember Williams?
So you just said that it has to be an approved budget item, like we're going through this later. So in your example, we know for the year, we're probably gonna have to replace 5 patrol vehicles, right? So that's been accounted for in the budget. This now just streamlines the authorization, whereas if it was only $50,000, even though we know we need to purchase those 5, each of those 5 would have to come back to us if we didn't raise the limit?
That's correct. All right, seeing no other questions, any public comments on this? Seeing none, I will bring it back to council for deliberation or a motion.
I move approval of item 6.2.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1. And then can we take a quick 5-minute break before we get into the budget? I'm sorry. Thank you. All right, we're going to get started again, and we're moving to 6.3, which is consideration of resolutions adopting the fiscal year 2025-26 proposed operating budget, statement of financial policies and appropriations limit, adopting the fiscal year 25-26 capital budget and 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal years 25-26 through 29-30, and adopting the fiscal year 25-26 information technology plan. Jerry Tejeda, Administrative Services Director.
Good evening again. Thank you very much. So we're going to go ahead and get started, our fiscal year 25-26 budget. Just to give you a few highlights of the budget, we have a $96 million citywide expenditure budget. I do like to point out that $23 million of that is a very large CIP project that we'll get into a little bit later, but that number looks really large if you compare it to last year, so I do like to make that comment. General fund expenditures are at $35.9 million. That includes all one-time expenditures and any one-time transfers. And then we have a $38 million capital improvement expenditure budget. And again, we have that very large CIP project that will be in the budget this year. So just to hit some of our staffing changes, as we discussed at the budget retreat, staffing changes includes, or the staffing budget includes a temporary lieutenant position. For succession planning, we do have a planned retirement at the end of this year, and we want to be able to overlap and have a lieutenant in place and ready to go when that retirement happens towards the end of the fiscal year. So that is included. It does not replace the sergeant. It does not plan to replace the sergeant position until after the retirement occurs. And then on the public works salary schedule, which we discussed at our last meeting when the salary schedule came, but just as a reminder, it is in the budget, the engineering manager classification to correct the compaction between the senior civil engineer has a small increase for the year. Our transfers out, so looking at general fund, money going out of general fund into other funds, we have $2.5 million going out of our capital reserves. So we're using one-time monies there to move to capital projects, which would be the City Hall remodel and our Sellers Avenue reconstruction projects. We have $2.249 million going out of general fund to street repair and rehab fund, and we have $115,000 going to the stormwater fund. General fund projected revenues are expected to be about $33.5 million. In the graph there, you can kind of see where that money comes from. As we discussed in the past, our largest contributors to revenue is our interfund charges for service at 38% and our property taxes at 33%. Our proposed general fund expenditures are $35.9 million. This includes all one-time expenditures as well as any one-time transfers. And from the graph there, you can see our largest expense in the general fund is salary and benefits at 55%. So if we want to just talk reoccurring revenues and reoccurring expenditures, we usually typically pull out all those one-time costs. We don't want to project those out over the next 10 years if they're a one-time cost. So when we're looking at reoccurring revenues and expenditures, we're at $33.5 million in general fund and $32.6 million in expenditures with a surplus expected of approximately $975,000. We're also proposing, as we discussed, a one-time use of our capital project reserve of $2.5 million. At the end of the fiscal year, our estimated fund balance after we remove the 30% reserve is about $1.5 million. So looking at our 10-year plan on a graph, this is the percent of operating expenditures. As you all know, over the last few years, we have used several one-time expenses for large projects like East Cypress Road, the library, and then the $2.5 million we're using this year. So you can see that blue line decreases over the next few years, and that is us using that one-time fund balance. But the orange line, you can see we are withholding our 30% reserve as required by policy. And then just one more way to kind of look at the general plan, the 10-year plan in general fund. So you can see expenditures are under revenues slightly there at the orange and green lines, and then that our estimated fund balance at the end of the year remains fairly flat there across the bottom in blue. And then just to talk about, I know, I'm sorry, this is a little bit small on the page, but this is the projects, the CIP projects that are being funded this year with new money. So a lot of these projects have been funded significantly in the past, and we have added some new monies either for design or to complete construction of the projects. I wanted to highlight just a few of the big things on here. The biggest being Project 302. That is our East Cypress Road. It's the final phase of East Cypress Road. We have $24.7 million in the budget. And just as a reminder, 21.7 of that is reimbursable from the East Contra Costa Regional Fee and Financing Authority, or ECRFA. So in the budget document, we do anticipate that $21.7 million of revenue as well as the expenditure. So while we don't have the revenue yet, we will be able to draw it down over the year as we spend it. And we do anticipate that will roll into next year's budget a little bit. And then the other big one is the street repair and resurfacing. So $2.3 million was transferred from the general fund for street repair and rehab. And we will plan to spend that this year on street repair and resurfacing, which we haven't gotten to do in a couple of years. Most of our streets money has gone to East Cypress Road, and we haven't gotten to do the maintenance that's needed. So this year, the $2.3 million from general fund will be utilized for that purpose. So those are the big ticket items on that page. I'm happy to, when we get to questions, review any others, and Mr. Rohani is also available if there's any details needed on each project. As in the past, we were a recipient of the Operating Budget Excellence Award from the CSMFO, or California Society of Municipal Finance Officers, and we will plan to submit this year's budget as well for the award. Before we talk temporary sworn officers, I'm going to invite the chief up. He has some news he'd like to share, and then we'll get back into the budget document.
Madam Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council. So last time I was before you, I accepted a proclamation from you for National Police Week. I did that in the vein of accepting that on behalf of the lost American officers across the country. What I did not acknowledge that night was your undying support for public safety and police services, which is greatly appreciated. You, as a seated council 3 years ago, decided that you were going to prioritize police services and police staffing, while others were going the opposite direction. And I think we have seen firsthand what that has created. We reached a certain point where we had actually hired 17 officers while you've been seated. We reached a point where our candidate pool was getting thin, and so we approached you with an idea to start going to the entry-level status, to actually go out to the members of the community who've never been police officers before, to see if we could find somebody like that. And we learned through a very arduous process that had some pitfalls in it, what it really meant to start a brand new police officer off from the academy and get them started onto a career with the Oakley Police Department. So we did identify two candidates, Juliana Caligari and Mark Johnson. Both are members of this community. They began their academy life on December 2nd of 2024. And just today, we received word they have met all academy standards. And on Friday, they will graduate to become Oakley police officers. So we're very, very happy with them, very proud of them. And we will have a swearing-in ceremony for them next Monday at 3 p.m. And I will be introducing them formally to council and to the city of Oakley at our next council meeting. Thank you.
So with that news, it changes this slide just a little bit. Our 38 sworn officers with 1 to 2 long-term injuries and 4 full-time openings changes to 40 sworn officers with 2 full-time openings. We still have 1 to 2 that are out on long-term injuries, and we are unsure of when they will return. The 2 recruits, as I mentioned here, May 30th graduation, it's happening. We can count them now. We do have 1 recruit that we plan to send to the January 2026 academy in hopes to fill one of the other 2 full-time openings, and our lateral position in recruitment remains open at this time. And then, as we've done in the past, I believe the last 2 years, we've talked about the overhire process and hiring temporary sworn officers. Those resolutions that we approve are on an annual basis, so we ask that we approve that again, so that these long-term injuries, once we know their status, and once we know they're out of a paid status, it allows us to start to look for their replacement while we go through all the paperwork and processes that is necessary when we have these long-term injuries. So we don't estimate that we would be able to overhire until approximately January of 2026, so that the paid status, there's no fiscal impact to overhire. And then new this year, included in your packet, is the Information Technology Plan for fiscal year 2025 and 2025-26. It describes the city's technology strategy and helps to guide our technology investments and initiatives for the fiscal year. It's aligned with our strategic plan 27 plus, and we will continue to focus this year on the modernization of our services. If there's questions on that, Ms. Navarro is here who can answer those, as well as Mr. Rob Barker in the back of the room. So with that, we recommend, there are 4 resolutions included in the packet, and so we would need all 4 resolutions adopted. The first is to adopt the fiscal year 2025-26 proposed operating budget, statement of financial policies, and appropriation limits. The second is to approve the recommended capital budget and the 5-year capital improvement plan, 25-26 through 29-30. The third would be to approve the resolution to adopt the 25-26 information technology plan. And then the fourth would be the resolution adopting 2 additional sworn officer positions on a temporary basis. And before we get to questions, I just wanted to do a quick thank you. Our finance manager, Carolina Camacho, is sitting here tonight. She is always such a huge help as part of the budget process, as well as all the department directors who put a lot of time and effort into the budget. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
All right, do I have any questions for staff from council? Councilmember Fuller?
Yes. Number 1, the resolutions, yes, those are always there. Resolution 1 approves what?
The operating budget.
Resolution 2 will?
The capital budget.
Okay. Resolution 3?
The IT plan.
Okay, and then, all right, and then number 4 for the 2 additional officers. Okay, the only, a couple other questions is, I see on CIP 281 that we're allocating $1.5 million. And I'm kind of curious, will there be something else besides more play equipment and ADA restrooms? What are we adding there for $1.5 million?
Most of that is to cover the $850,000, I don't know if we call it a grant from the federal government. We have not received it yet. It is on hold at this point. We do anticipate receiving it, but in order for us to complete the contract, we need that funding, and then it would be reimbursed as soon as it's received from the federal government.
Okay, well, I understand about the funding, but what are we going to build with $850,000? Let's put it that way.
So the $850,000 was all included in the original plan of the building of the park. We included, the city only funded the part that we needed to fund with the anticipation of receiving the $850,000. So the contract we have in place for Enrico Cinquini Park was all in. It included both budgets, but because we haven't received that yet and we're ready to move forward with the building, we need to allocate that fund at the city level until we receive the reimbursement.
Okay, well, I remember when the $850,000 was being accepted. We were talking about it, and there's what I haven't seen is any athletic fields designed into the new park. Is that going to happen now with $850,000? And one of the reasons why I'm asking is that was going to be for club play, which I have a problem with. So are we taking, when I looked at the diagram, I didn't see any playing fields. But now you're adding more into it. And I don't know, is that going to be playing fields, soccer fields? How are we going to work that?
The design of the park has not changed. There are no play fields. There's a turf area, but the design of the park has been consistent.
Excuse me, say that?
The design of the park has been consistent. We have not changed.
So what about the fields? None?
No. Turf.
I'm sorry.
There'll be grass there, but not official fields.
Not official field. Okay, thank you. That's what I needed to know. I'll have comments later on about that. CIP 318 on the library says we've allocated $10.3 million. We have not approved the construction of that library yet. In other words, we haven't had the last design come in and the last specs on it.
No.
Okay. And then, of course, my usual complaint of CIP 323, $50,000 for ADA compliance, and I don't know how to answer that, but I've been disappointed for 5 years on that one. So I guess we'll find another way for ADA compliance. And I'll have comments at the discussion. Thank you.
Any additional questions? All right, any public comment on this? Seeing none, I will bring it back to council for deliberation. Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, as you know, I've had concerns about Enrico Sequini Park. We just seem to keep adding on, and now we're up to $6.5 million with the developer, Mr. Sino Sr., paying $2 million. So we're adding onto it. At the same time, and I can't say that this is staff, but during the budget situation, I found out, I began to discover we have Creekside Park, which is on the other side of Maine, that side of Maine, which is, as what Mr. Rohani brought up, it isn't have enough ADA facilities. The water facilities are basically need to be removed or modified. There's other things that need to be done there to bring it up to snuff, so to speak. We put some money in, but the bottom line is that when it came about, the other 4 council members just, no, we blew that one off. We're putting money into Enrico Sequini Park, and it's what I complained about last time when I had somebody from District 5 on the other side of Maine putting up, that it just seems we come up short. So I'm sure that there will be those that appreciate the $6.5 million, but I have problems with it. I also had in there that, and one phrase that really irked me was, this will be the best park in the city. This will be all wonderful. It will be so wonderful. And I'm sitting there, you know, we had a whole governance session on how we're supposed to make this equality and equity and something that comes about with all the city include, and now we seem to be in competition. Well, I've sponsored the best park. So I've been here, so I got the best park. And I'm just sitting here, I'm trying to get enough money to replace the picnic tables at Creekside Park. So I have that, and then the $50,000 in there also that, I don't know, as a disabled person with a doctorate in disability studies, I'm embarrassed. And that's all I can say. So I will be voting no on the CIPs. And one other question, though, when we vote on 3, if we're putting them all together, I'm concerned. IT has a nice plan there and everything, but are we giving it enough money? I think it was 350,000 or less. We're allocating there. Is that going to be enough money to do what we really want to do?
I think that's maybe just for the projects, not necessarily for the entire operation of CIP or of IT. So the IT projects, there's some firewall upgrades that need to happen. There is the AV of the council chambers that will happen as part of that. But that is not the entire IT budget. That is just for the specific projects.
Well, I'll discuss it in discussion, but I don't like
We're in discussion.
well, okay, well, if you're in discussion, I don't like the concept of plans being made, especially in IT, which we really wanted to keep going along, and we are going along, to suddenly run out of money 9 months into it. And now what do we do? You know, having to move things around. I'm sure our finance officer can find ways to move things around, but it'd be nice to have it fully funded when we start. So thank you.
Just to clarify, the budget for IT is built in the budget. The money in the capital improvements projects is one-time spending that IT is asking for to do some of the upgrades. But we have a fully funded, budgeted IT department.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Sorry to jump in. Vice Mayor Henderson?
First off, I want to appreciate what staff has put in front of us. It's a very well laid out budget. The binders were very helpful to make this process go through. I was very impressed with the information technology plan, and I think that's an important process to keep moving forward. And if it comes out even at 90% of what we were able to do in the park with the with the speaker system and the PA system to improve our residents to be able to watch from home and hear and see what's going on, I think that's huge. And again, supporting the authority for the temporary basis, the additional sworn officers, that has been a priority, and we need to make sure that we keep that a priority as we move forward. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
I find it interesting that we're having a discussion about Creekside Park, but at the budget retreat, I put my dollar up there, but we didn't have any discussion there. So that's just interesting to me. I also think that while we're elected for districts, I don't hear people saying, this is in my district. Do I support the spending at Cinquini Park? Yeah, because there's a drought of parks over there. Like, those folks that live over there don't have great access to a park. And I think most neighborhoods, now that we made it right with Vintage, I think most neighborhoods at least have something close to them, and that area doesn't have any. So is the increase, so the $850 was supposed to be coming from the federal government. Did it go up to 1.5 million because there's additional improvements needed, or because that's just the cost that's increased while we're sitting waiting for it to get executed?
It's the cost all in from design to construction.
So in all reality, that's going to be a conversation that we're having over and over and over again, right? I mean, we had an item on the consent calendar today where we declined all the bids because our street lights came into, or stoplights, sorry, came in too expensive. So this is probably a discussion that we're going to be having regularly in the coming years, I would guess.
Potentially, I think it just depends on the project, but yeah, this one is a unique one.
Okay. Okay, and then it does look like our IT budget is actually $1 million for the year, and your letter does say that we realize that's probably still not enough, but we're doing the best we can with what we have available. So I appreciate you calling attention to that it might not be enough, but we're trying to get there. So I appreciate that. I think that's my only comments for right now, unless Mr. Meadows makes me think of something else.
Councilmember Meadows?
So it's brought up that we have a $50,000 line item for ADA improvements, correct?
Yes.
Isn't every project on this list include ADA improvements, or they can't be built?
Correct.
And what's the capital improvement budget for this year? Total budget?
Over about $35 million.
So in that $35 million, there is ADA improvements in every single one of those capital improvement projects. Just want to point that out. So the information is accurate. I thank the staff for the work they did. You've done a good job. I like what's here. I also am happy to see that we're authorizing the 2 additional sworn officers positions on a temporary basis. I appreciate that. We pushed that for a long time. That's all I have right now.
I'm jumping in. I want to say I appreciate all the work that was done. I love these budgets. I am inspired to do them for my day job and give them all to my board, but I don't think that they read them. But I think it's great. Everything is very detailed, broken down. I like that we have everything separated out, and it's very easy to read. You guys did an amazing job, and I just want to have you express that to all of those involved, please. I know we have some in the audience here, but I know that there are many, many more hands in this. So really appreciate all the hard work that staff does to get this done. We do a lot with what we have, and it shows every year when we are being creative on how we come up with money. We can't help when the costs rise, and we have to come back and ask for more, and it's never an easy conversation. But then I see times that we are able to lower things, and we make smart choices, and that is all you guys. So I really appreciate everything that you guys do, and this budget is amazing. And we have cities surrounding us that are in a major deficit right now, and I like to brag that that is not us. I was asked this morning, what's our budget deficit? And I said, what deficit? So I thank you for giving me that little bragging moment. And the overhires, I think we've all sat up here and said public safety is, our number one. So thank you, Chief, for coming up and giving us that acknowledgement, because I think that that is something that we've all 5 agreed on. We may not agree on a lot, but that is something that we've all agreed on. So I just wanted to make my comments. Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, I'm bothered with Councilmember Meadows and the concept that we're putting money in each project. Each project is getting built. Each project is meeting specifications. My annoyance is that nobody could tell me how much is spent on ADA in any project. We say we do put in curb cuts, we do this, we do that. We're going to be around, we're going to put in ADA, but the situation is we do allocate play equipment. We do allocate construction of fields. As a sideline, because the law demands it, basically, and this is a civil right, we add ADA restrooms. But we don't embrace the concept of ADA. It's just that, well, if any money is left over and what we can do, we'll put something in, and you ought to be happy with that. We're not happy with it. As a disabled person and others in disability, we're not happy with that. We want to be up on the line and same as everyone else when it's put in, and not have to wait for the crumbs that go down and dribble down to us. So I'm done.
And I disagree with that. We have projects that we're building. We also have projects that we're improving. And with every improvement, we add ADA improvements. And from a disabled person as well, I know I may not have the physical appearance, but I do have a broken spine, and I am a permanently disabled person. I do appreciate what the staff does to not only do it for all the CIP improvement projects, but then also find a way to allocate some additional every single year. So, Councilmember Meadows?
I move approval of the resolution to adopt the fiscal year 25-26 proposed operating budget, statement of financial policies, and appropriations limit.
I'll second.
Are we moving every resolution?
We're doing one at a time.
Okay.
This is number 1.
Number 1, okay, thank you.
I have a motion and tied for second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item 1 passes unanimously.
I move approval of a resolution to adopt the fiscal year 2025-26 recommended capital budget and 5-year capital improvement plan for fiscal years 25-26 through 29-30.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Passes 4-1.
I move approval of a resolution to adopt the fiscal year 25-26 information technology plan.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
I move approval of a resolution authorizing 2 additional sworn police positions on a temporary basis.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to 7 reports. City Manager report, Joshua McMurray.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. I do not have any reports this evening.
All right, well, that was easy enough. 7.2, reports from council. Anyone have anything that they would like to report? Councilmember Williams?
You guys don't want me going first. You're so silly. It was short. It was easy. Since our last meeting, I attended Delta Protection Commission, which was held right here at the Oakley Recreation Center, and I do want to let everybody know, everyone who came applauded our beautiful center. They thanked our staff for being so gracious. All around, they said they would have every meeting out here, which I agreed to, but unfortunately, since the bulk of the body is in Sacramento, I'm stuck going back to Sacramento. We did have a public comment regarding Marsh Creek and the various groups that are working to keep the creeks and waterways throughout Alameda and Contra Costa County. I'm sure you know who it is. It's the person who comes to all of our meetings too. But he was talking about a project regarding co-raising of salmon. That could be something that's done with schools and stuff. It was just an interesting concept. Delta Protection Commission asked for some more information about it. Santa Cruz does a similar project. We got a report from the Delta Protection Advisory Committee. There was a discussion about Prop 4 funding, focus areas for a farm water council, focus on collectively organizing for funding and permitting. There is a lot of silt maintenance throughout, and they're trying to do a channel maintenance program, not just project by project as it's currently happening, but it does have detriments to economic development because ships can't really get through with all that silt. We got a report from the Delta Stewardship Council. DWR gave a levy investment update as well as a community benefit report on the conveyance project, which I've reported back. It would be $220 million split up between every single Delta town. We did get a new general counsel as well as a new environmental senior planner. The May revise of our state budget does include a lot of fast tracking of the conveyance project, shortening CEQA. Permits can be issued before the water rights are established. That's different than how it's been in the past, so that's a concerning part. Our heritage area has a lot going on, and there's going to be even more with the 250-year anniversary of both the U.S. and also the ANZA expedition. We are still recruiting for an executive director. We will hopefully have a candidate in September. The Corps of Engineers' final environmental report on the conveyance should be delivered around June. We did have the Delta Leadership Program cohort graduating. It was the 9th graduating cohort with 19 graduates. They did really cool projects, some that I would like to have. I gave them our information. Specifically, they have one talking about emergency alert and warning systems, talking about flooding, so I think it plays nicely in with what we approved tonight. There was another project that was Explore the Delta. It was tourism activities. It's basically just a website and they develop day trip itineraries. So I said, Oakley could be included in some of those day trip itineraries. So hopefully there'll be some reaching out. I did attend the Chamber of Commerce parade planning meeting for our Summerfest parade and attended a beautiful Memorial Day service. I'm so glad I got to go to this since I missed last year. So it was a really, really lovely day, and the staff did a great job as always, just setting it up, and great list of speakers. It was really, I think, a great event for everybody, so thank you.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
Since our last meeting, I attended Iron House Sanitation. They'll be in October celebrating their 80th anniversary. Also attended the Memorial Day service, and it was excellent. The staff did a great job. Thank you.
Councilmember Meadows?
I also attended the Memorial Day celebration. I agree, staff did a great job. Also, it was nice having PA system that the people in attendance could actually hear. It was great. Last week, I attended Contra Costa Transportation Authority board meeting. This week, we'll be having a board workshop here in Oakley. And 2 weeks ago, I attended MC meeting.
Scrolling through my phone, I forgot to write down before today's meeting what I did. The city manager and I attended Delta Association of Realtors, kind of what's happening within the city of Oakley. Thank you, Mr. McMurray, for putting together the slideshow and answering all the questions. Well, I guess we both answered questions, but it was a good turnout. Lots of questions, lots of people thinking that Oakley's doing a really good job. So it was a great presentation. I had a Cal Cities Board of Directors call. We are just finalizing our cornhole tournament for City Pack. They're encouraging cities to put together teams and support that. Senator Cabalden sent a last-minute, same-day email asking to get an emergency Zoom to go over the May revision of the budget by the governor, and he went over a lot of the changes there. I was out of town for Memorial Day. Thank you, Vice Mayor Henderson, for stepping in. I am so sad I missed I missed the Memorial Day event and got to see the speakers in action, but I look forward to the next one. And that is all I have. So before I go into future agenda item requests, I do, in my report though, we did lose our longtime county supervisor, Federal Glover, and if everyone is okay with it, when I do close the meeting, I'd like to close it out in his honor. He served on the County Board of Supervisor for over 30 years, and before that was elected to City Council in Pittsburgh, but he has been a very big role in our county, so I just wanted to make that comment. And he is having a funeral service tomorrow at 11 in Pittsburgh. If anyone's interested, I have the information. But then we will do 7.2B, future agenda item request. Does anybody have any requests for future agenda items? All right, seeing none, we are at the end of our meeting. We have no work sessions, we have no closed sessions, so there being no further business, I would like to adjourn this meeting in honor of former Supervisor Federal Glover. Our next regular meeting will be held Tuesday, June 10th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.